Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Here we are again.
Are we here?
It's us again for the bajillionth time since the draft started here. The Vikings have their QB2. Judd Zulgad is live from the XL Energy Center right now, where the Wild are going to attempt to win another playoff game. And I was literally just about to head out the door, maybe go catch the Vikings picks because they had the 139, the 142. I said, I'm going to just in case something happens, I'm going to watch these from home instead of like going for a late lunch somewhere.
Veteran.
And bam, they trade the. So we'll recap like the draft pick, like the edge rusher from Georgia. We'll do that stuff tomorrow. Do a deeper dive. So they picked the edge rusher from Georgia, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins at 139. They had the 142 coming up next. They trade the 142. Well, they move back to 172. So they don't even really trade a pick. They just move back 30 spots in the 5th round. And they land Sam Howell as QB2, a name that we have talked about. It's basically been, for trade candidates, him or Aiden O'Connell have been guys kind of bandied about going into the last year or two of their rookie scale deals. So Sam Howell, who was a former starter 2 years ago for the Washington Commanders, he actually led the NFL in pass attempts in 2023. That Washington team went 4-13. They fired everyone. They drafted Jaden Daniels. He led the league in interceptions with 21, led the league in sacks taken with 65. You have panned the idea of this move, but he is your QB2 now, Sam Howell.
Well, I have, because the picks absolutely scare me. And I said at the time when his name first emerged that I saw him basically in O'Connell's mind as, if this makes sense, Nick Mullins Jr., because they both throw a lot of picks. I believe the phrase is they like to go YOLO with football. That being said, though, I can see the bright side of this. One is I think this puts to bed the Cousins talk. I think this probably puts to bed a little bit more the Rodgers talk, although I still maintain he is going to keep a close eye here. I'm not sure he goes to Pittsburgh and still hopes that something terrible happens to McCarthy. Hopefully that's not the case. But you know what? Like when you examine this, I mean, I don't love the player, but I will say O'Connell's track record is this. He has turned around guys as well. And this is also QB2, so hopefully he doesn't have to play. But the reality is, a year ago, we also panned, I think a lot of us, Sam Darnold. Yep. And we said, he's really going to start for you? Like, that's an option? I don't know about that. And they got a phenomenal year. Yes, the last 2 games weren't good, but I mean, a phenomenal 14-win year. So there's no, he was an MVP candidate for a nice portion of the season, which is far more than any of us could have asked for. Now, this is clearly QB2. So, yes, I've panned it. Yes, I don't love him, but he is an ideal candidate if Kevin O'Connell signed off on this. And, Phil, I think there's no question he did for the latest entry into the award-winning quarterback rehabilitation school that takes place in Eagan every year.
Dan, we got those new QB Rehab School T-shirts available at scorenorth.com/shop. I was wearing one on night 1 of the draft. We printed them too early. We should have waited for Sam Howell or like Aaron Rodgers was out there.
Put your own one on. Some tape, some masking tape. Just put like his name on the back. Stick it on your shirt and add to your shirt.
So you touched on my biggest takeaway and thoughts when this move officially went down is people hated the Sam Darnold signing a year ago. This guy's garbage. He's a bust. He's an interception machine. He's a sack machine. Why would you dig around the used DVD bin here when you could have gone and brought in somebody more successful? Well, Kevin O'Connell knows what he's looking at. He knows how to develop quarterbacks. He knows talent. The Vikings have done a really good job in some cases buying low on guys who were once very highly touted. And people forget, man, Sam Howell, so he wound up being a 5th-round draft pick in 2022. if you go back and look at mock drafts after like his first year starting at North Carolina in 2019, before the pandemic, he was universally thought of as the QB1 of a future draft class, a top 10 overall pick. And that wasn't that long ago. That was like 5 years ago. So he starts in 2019 as a freshman at North Carolina, 38 touchdowns, led the conference, only 7 interceptions. His second year at North Carolina, ACC, sophomore, led the league in completions, yardage with 3,600 yards, led the league in touchdown passes. And so 2019-20, going into the pandemic, he was regarded as the guy coming out of college, maybe him and like another guy or two. And he played really poorly relative to his previous 2 years in 2021. And again, it's a weird time to evaluate players. And then the worst possible thing happens for Sam Howell when he's 22 years old. He gets drafted by one of the 3 worst franchises in the entire league, that version of the Washington Commanders, or I think they were the Washington football team when he was there. That like the Commanders as we know them now, it can change quickly when you get a rotten owner, replace him with a guy that knows what he's doing, gut the front office, bring in some guys, bring in a head coach that's been to a Super Bowl. But he was drafted before all that happened by one of the 3 or 4 teams that would, to me, be a no-fly zone if you're looking to develop as a quarterback. So again, maybe he winds up just kind of coming through here, and maybe he winds up never playing a snap, because ideally JJ McCarthy just starts 17 games and he's a stud. But I'm kind of looking past the bad interception and sack numbers, and we can dive more into that stuff too. And I see a guy that, once again, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are looking at a stock that was up here. It has tanked down to here, and they think it's going to go back up with some help from the infrastructure that the Vikings have provided some other quarterbacks in the past few years.
And there's situations where I am all for competition, right? Like, it's good to have competition. You go into training camp with competition. But this is one where I think that you need to give McCarthy enough grace so that he can have the ability to just basically get the first team reps. There's no expectation of, hey, here's Kirk Cousins. He needs a couple of those too, right? So I think that this approach is, it appears to use a Vikings type term, very intentional. It's a very intentional term. Like, this guy can play. Do they want him to play? No. And I also think now the depth chart is very, very clear. It's McCarthy, it's Howell, Rippon. Like, this is not going to be like
and they'll grab a UDFA, I bet.
Sure,
tomorrow, right?
Sure.
Like
but I mean,
Max Brosmer or something.
But I mean, I think Rippon is on this roster in large part because I think he's probably going to coach someday, and it's good. Like, he's a smart guy. It's good to be here. I think Howell, though, is the definitive backup, which is fine. And at the end of the day, if you use Howell like Mullins was used very sparingly, Darnold twisted an ankle, Nick would come in for 2 snaps. He'd complete a pass or something. Then you're fine. But the reality is this. It's not, if your starter gets hurt, it's not an excuse to suck, but it alters things greatly. Like, in today's league, how many teams, and this is what made the Darnold thing so impressive, because he was basically a backup. But Phil, how many teams like have a ready-made, hey, here comes Cousins, and he's still great or something like that? So this is very calculated. I think it's fine. Have I been a big fan of a guy that throws a ton of picks? No. Do I get what they're doing? Yes. Do I give them way more lenience because of the head coach who's a quarterback guy? Absolutely. So I'm just, if this is the depth chart on the first day of training camp, I'm fine with that.
I am too. It kind of, now they had other options. Obviously, they had the Rodgers option, and he would have been QB1 on the depth chart, and McCarthy QB2. We've exhausted that conversation. Kirk Cousins was an option. I'm assuming that they had some conversations. The Falcons have been, according to Schefter, the Falcons have been talking to the Steelers, the Vikings. Do you think this puts an end to the Kirk Cousins talk?
Yes. My guess is this.
I think so too.
I think this puts an end to the Cousins talk more than the flights of fancy that are going through Rodgers' head still. Like, I think that Aaron, because he's so calculated, I think if he does not sign with Pittsburgh, which, by the way, would not surprise me, I think that he is going to sort of just hover, right? Hey, what's going on in Minnesota? But yes, I think that as far as the Falcons go, my guess is if there was a chance, and we don't know how much it existed, of Kirk Cousins returning here, that it was probably a conversation, like you said, about, okay, we'll take on some of the hit. We're certainly not going to take his entire hit. And furthermore, we probably want something back. Like, if the Vikings were willing to give up something and take on some of Cousins' cap with no additional return, I think I'm probably out completely. Now, if you float a third-round pick back to me, let's talk. But I liked your scenario there, which was, if we're going to do this, we need you to sort of bend over backwards to help us. But yes, I think Cousins is dead. Rodgers, I think, might be dead in the building, not with the guy himself. But I think that this is probably, I would far prefer to see this than any type of like circus. And they have spent, since, as we talked about on our first episode today, Phil, they have spent from the first day that free agency started. It's very clear now, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, they have worked their asses off to give JJ McCarthy as much insulation as possible. Yeah. So, like, this is, if you're ever going to give the keys of the car to the kid, this is a good car. Like, this car could get in a crash, and the kid would survive that crash.
It's there's the airbags are great. I don't know. It's
a Volvo. It's an old school Volvo. Just a horse of a car.
By the way, just to answer a couple comments here from Johan in the comments section, how is Sam Howell affecting the cap? Well, that's the beauty of this year. The Vikings over 2 years have gone from regularly paying some of the highest cap hits in the league to their quarterback position to now JJ McCarthy on a rookie scale deal. Brett Rippon makes like league minimum. And Sam Howell, who was a 5th-round pick, still on his rookie scale contract. His base salary is $1.1 million, which is about 0.39% of your salary cap. So he takes up nothing. And also, they didn't really give up anything for him. They didn't give up a pick. They gave up 30 spots. It's my puberty kicking in here live on Purple
Bobby
Daily.
Brady, when it's time to change.
My voice, by the way, is hanging by a thread from these last few days, as you can tell. But they moved back 30 spots in the 5th round. So they didn't even give up a pick for him. Let me throw this one at you here from Ben in the comment section. If you're watching the chat, which we are, Ben, hello. Opinion on Shedeur going to Cleveland. I'm going to take his question and spin it. Shedeur went 2 picks after the Vikings had the 139 and the 142. So he went 144. Cleveland finally said, all right, I guess if you're going to keep giving us chances to draft him, we will. Sam Howell or Shedeur Sanders? Did they make a mistake by not drafting Shedeur Sanders?
For where the Vikings are right now, Howell, every single time. Number one, I'm not going to take a guy who, as I told you before, is going to bring the circus to town. Like, unnecessary, too. And I'm talking national circus, which we've seen before. Yeah. ESPN comes in, and then Fox comes in, and then everybody comes in.
And then players get resentful for, why is everyone talking about this dude? This is a 5th round, it's a rookie. Why are we talking about him?
Exactly. The second thing is, and I think that this is important, if you bring in Shedeur, and now it's a quarterback room of JJ McCarthy, Shedeur Sanders, and Brett Rippon, okay? Who's your number 2? Like this is the thing. I think in the perfect world, Nick Mullins, who got paid more, I'm sure, than the Vikings would have given him to go to Jacksonville, but Nick Mullins' 2024 season was ideal, right? Because you don't want him to play too much, but he could come in occasionally. He knew what he was supposed to do. I believe in almost every case that he was forced to play last season, he executed it, right? So are you going to trust Shedeur, to come off the bench, if JJ gets hurt, hey, kid, do this? And so, no, with where the Vikings are, which is they are trying to win right now, I am not going with what could be a project or an unknown. And if he has to play, it's oh boy. So, no, I'm going the veteran, Howell, Aiden O'Connell, whomever that might be, for where the Vikings are presently.
Yep. No, that's fair. I mean, the Shedeur thing definitely would have been crazy and fun, but you're right. It would have been a circus. And we've talked enough with our guys, Jeremiah Searles and Boone, and then even guys in the current Vikings locker room, that distractions are a thing. Teams can talk about limiting distractions and how just we don't pay attention to distractions, but yeah, like all the national networks would have been parked outside the Vikings practice facility for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then it would have turned into, is this a battle in training camp?
Right.
You got a guy that was supposed to maybe be the second pick in the draft, and he fell, but like he's still super talented, and JJ's coming off an injury. It would have been fun but crazy and chaotic.
I've been trying to think this through, because I do contend too. Distractions are a thing. And like teams say, oh, we're not distracted. We can't be distracted. It's like, yes, you can. I've decided teams' terms, it's a different term for the same thing. Players and coaches like to say, we tune out the outside noise. That's the same exact thing. Yeah. I think distractions is seen as a dirty word, like, oh, we're not going to fall for that word, you media jackals. And so they try to pretend like that's a word that they do not identify with. But no matter how you classify it, the 2025 Vikings are at a place where they do not need distractions. They need to, as they all like to say, get to work. And I think currently, as constructed right now, they are in a perfect position when on-field work starts next month to get to work.
Yeah. I did pull up the NFL.com Sam Howell scouting profile from Lance Zierlein 5 years ago. Or what was he drafted? 2022. So from 3 years ago. If you don't mind, I'd love to read through some of
I'm all ears.
What Lance Zierlein said. So let's start with the strengths. Sam Howell has gamer tendencies, confident demeanor, leaks over to teammates, and he has some sandlot talent when he's pressed to use it.
Football.
That's so spot on.
He's got that sandlot tendency to maybe get a little squirrely with the football, though. Climbs the pocket with scanner still clicked on. I love that. Adequate decision maker reading combo routes, can get to his third read across the field, nimble dealing with foot traffic, zips, and multiple arm slots for off-platform throws.
Football.
Also has red zone value as a runner, too, which is nice because the Vikings never score rushing touchdowns.
Interesting.
And in a perfect world, it'll be JJ McCarthy scoring those rushing touchdowns, not Sam Howell. But, okay, weaknesses: squatty frame and tightly bound limbs. Ball pat and wind up slow the release. Touch and timing both need work. Falls off the throw unnecessarily sometimes. Deep balls come out a little late and a little flat, and he lacks accuracy on drive throws.
Football.
Also takes too many unnecessary sacks, which is definitely, some of this stuff I think got ironed out over 3 years. The unnecessary sacks thing, there's a lot of analytical proof that taking a sack is actually worse. Like the volume of sacks taken is actually worse than interceptions in today's NFL because it just kills drives. And in 2023, Sam Howell took 65 sacks. What's funny is people always blame sacks on the offensive line. And yeah, like offensive line has a big factor, but quarterbacks can just get rid of the ball quicker or dirt the ball or move up in the pocket or slide. There's so many things quarterbacks can do. So he took 65 sacks and had a 10% sack rate, which if you would have put that sack rate into last year's qualified quarterbacks, only Caleb Williams, Will Levis, and Deshaun Watson before the Achilles had higher sack rates among last year's crop of starters. I'm taking Sam Howell from 2 years ago. So that's 10%. The elite sack-avoiding quarterbacks, like Josh Allen, Jordan Love is actually an elite sack-avoiding quarterback. Bo Nix doesn't take a lot of sacks, a lot of quick game. They're all under 5%. Some of them, like Derek Carr, for instance, great at avoiding sacks, 2.7% sack rate, only took 8 sacks in 10 games. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And you're not going to, because in the practices, like Judd's camp notes, they don't finish the sack. So you'll have to kind of glean, like, would that guy have gotten a sack? Sometimes they blow the play dead. But that would be the biggest thing. When you go into QB rehab school, what's the number one item that needs to be worked on? What are your general courses that you're going to take?
Right.
The sack avoidance 101 would be the one that Sam Howell needs to study up on for sure.
Yeah, I'd say that the one thing that you went through of the list of potential negatives would be, and he might have gotten past this one, patting the ball. Like, you can't give the extra pat, which you can do in college, like all day long. You can sit back there and pat the ball, and you probably can still throw it.
Yeah.
That's the obvious one, and I don't know if that remains a problem. But yeah, well, and the quarterback sack thing is, avoiding the sacks is also a really, I have grown to think in my years of watching the sport, Phil. It's a really nuanced thing too, because it's not you avoided a sack by taking off. It's sliding in the pocket. It's understanding the protections. It's the ability to navigate the actual pocket like a cockpit. So like it's not just, he took off and he ran for 5 yards. That's great. And I think we do get excited about that. But the identifying the blitzes and the rushes, I think goes well beyond that. And I think it is like, that's the one thing that I think stood out, really one of the top things about Kirk Cousins. His ability to navigate the pocket was not great. I think it improved, though, and this would be a good thing. I think it improved with O'Connell. So, like, Kevin can work with you.
Climb a little more aggressively.
McCown can, yeah, exactly. So that would be, if there is a more nuanced thing that I think they can start to work on in the process of rehabilitating a career gone wrong, it would probably be that. The Sandlot thing is intriguing because that sounds like fun, and it's mildly good, but it's also how you get in trouble. Like, you don't want to be, I don't know how to say this exactly right, but you don't want to be playing Sandlot football in the pros. It's great to be creative.
You got to really know what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. You've got to be, I feel like the Sandlot guys are like Mahomes, but you also have to know this dude is superior to the majority of guys playing. So, and I can tell you right now that I am willing to bet for sure the interceptions and mistakes that Howell have made, KO has gone through on tape, and like that's going to be one thing that he works very hard to fix if Howell plays or if he just stands and holds a clipboard all season.
Yeah. Again, like, to reiterate for the 100th time that, like, ideally, he never plays a regular season snap other than a kneel down and a blowout or something for the Vikings. But one thing to add to this too, like Christian Ponder, for instance, when 2012 was his first full season, he wasn't even talented enough to throw for anywhere near 300 yards. Like, he literally had one 300-yard game in 2012. The next highest passing total was 270. He only had two other games over 250. Like, it was a grind for Ponder, for instance, a real bust in the draft, to get to 250 yards passing in a game. It takes talent. Sam Howell, in almost half of his games as a starter 2 years ago for Washington, was throwing for 290 or above. He had a 397 and 4 touchdown game against the Eagles. He had a 388 and 2 touchdown game against the Bears, 325 against the Patriots on the road, 312, 3 touchdowns, no picks against Seattle in a close road loss, 299 against Denver, 300 against Dallas. So there's a huge upside. Go back to college, go back to his draft stock, even just some of the peak performances he had 2 years ago. And the Vikings are betting, and KOC is betting, that they can sand the edges, the interceptions and the sacks, to refine him, highlight the upside and maximize the upside, and reduce the lower end of the variance of Sam Howell. He really has a wide range of outcomes, and Kevin O'Connell has shown, because Sam Darnold did too, that he can iron out some of those wrinkles and maintain the 35 touchdown upside. So I'm excited to watch Sam Howell in training camp and go through Judd's Camp Notes episodes this summer. It's going to be fun.
The most excited person about this trade should be Sam Howell too. This puts him in an infrastructure where, if nothing else, it's awesome. And for his position, it's beyond that. This also, though, does confirm, and it's interesting, that the Vikings never truly had any interest in the entire free agent market. Like I always thought there'd be one, right? Like one guy out there, and we talked about them all. Tannehill, like they could sign Tannehill. No, they're going to wait to sign Flacco. And Duke said that the Flacco camp was like, "Are you going to call us?" And they're like, "No, we're good there." So it is intriguing, though. Like for all that we talk about KO and his love of the position, and there's no question about that. He is very sort of snotty about what he accepts. Like he does not take.
He's like the guy's the sniffing the wine.
Yeah.
He's like,
he's a quarterback connoisseur.
There's nodes of high sac rate in there.
He's a quarterback, but like he is a connoisseur of the position. Like that was a fairly significant, I thought, class of like veteran guys and slappies. But O'Connell must have looked at that entire class and said, "No, not one of them."
Yeah, and they've played this whole free agency game, and quarterback was part of that. Like, who are they going to sign? Like you said, a Flacco. They've played it so perfectly from a draft comp pick standpoint too. They wind up overhauling their offensive and defensive fronts. They wind up with another member of QB rehab school and some other pieces, secondary and what have you. And they're going to wind up getting maybe 3 comp picks because they were so strategic about the types of players they were signing, guys that were cut instead of free agents. So yeah, it's been a pretty nice little 6-week stretch here, I feel like, for the Vikings. We'll see if some of these draft picks like Donovan Jackson has to step in and ideally be a week 1 starter. But I say at this point, they got a pick or 2 to go. They might trade back to get an extra pick. They have 1 pick left. My guess is they trade back to get some extra value. But I really like what they've done since the second week in March, just on paper so far.
Yeah, and I think as you brought up earlier in the show, I think the next quarterback comes from the UDFA class tonight.
Yep.
And it could be Brosmer. Like I could see that. Good guy, good team guy, practice squad guy perhaps. But I don't think I just saw a note that they could bring in, or a comment that they could now sign a veteran after the draft. I don't think they're going to. Like I think this is the veteran.
Agreed.
They've got Rippon, who I think that they like as a person, and don't sleep on the fact that I think O'Connell puts a ton of stock in rooms, and especially the quarterback room. Like if you're like Brett Rippon, why bother? If you're good in that room and you assist, you get a star, a gold star, like a 3rd grade kid.
Like Brett Rippon's job is to be great at watching film and contributing in the meetings in a positive way. So JJ McCarthy, it's once you get to like 3rd, 4th quarterback, it's like you're kind of a pseudo assistant coach. You're there to help point things out in practice, game day, film room, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, KO is very, very meticulous about what he wants in those quarterback rooms.
And my guess is when it comes to quarterback 3 or beyond that, I think KO's looking for himself, because that was him, right? And I think he contributed. Like I think he clearly now, in retrospect, knew exactly he couldn't accomplish it, but on the field, but he knew what he was looking at. And I think he's really trying to find himself again, which is fine. That's the thing is QB rehab school goes very deep. It's not just a starter. It's not just a backup. Like the 3rd guy. Like I would not be surprised now if in a couple of years Brett hangs it up and becomes an assistant coach.
Yeah. Yeah, there's many different courses you can choose to enroll in quarterback rehabilitation school.
3,000 level.
Yeah. Sam Howell again. Just let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the 101 level, sack avoidance here. All right, we'll get back to just not taking 6 sacks in a game. So, any final words from you from the bowels of XL Energy Center here on this emergency Purple Daily before we wrap?
I'm seeing a couple of comments here and there about the defensive end/tackle that they drafted and like why, and he was not on the boards as high as the Vikings took him. And all I would say is don't blame Kwesi there. I think that is probably a Brian Flores special.
I'll tell you why. Pulled up the relative athletic score for this dude too.
Little Raz for you.
Absolute specimen. So yeah, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins from Georgia. Now ESPN calls him a hybrid player who can play defensive end in 3-man fronts and defensive tackle in 4-man fronts. So it kind of sounds like the way they used Jihad Ward a little bit last year. He's an edge setter who stacks and can forcefully discard offensive tackles as a run defender. So the Vikings got gashed a few times in the run game.
Oh yeah.
But from a RAS score standpoint, which I feel like we should explain this every time because I know people who have like lives and jobs and are just here casually might not know what a RAS score is. But since 1987, every player that's come through the NFL Combine and Pro Days that puts up testing for bench press and 40-yard dash, they take all their testing measurements and they essentially they give you a 0 through 10 score based on historical comps. And Ingram Dawkins from Georgia, who's a defensive tackle classification, scored 9.85 out of 10, so almost a perfect RAS score. He's the 29th ranked defensive tackle out of 1,800 since 1987. He's one of the most athletic freaks to be measured at that position since 1987. Little bit of a refinement project here for Brian Flores and company. There's a reason why he wasn't drafted, obviously, in the first round because the production doesn't match the measurables. But hey, they're loaded at that position, so they can kind of stash him away, and I don't know, maybe they can sneak him on the practice squad if he doesn't make the actual 53-man roster. But that's why they took him. He is an athletic specimen.
I think it's become extremely clear too that Flores' priority is at least somewhat positionless football. It's positionless. Like he's looking for safeties that can play corner, linebacker. He wants defensive linemen, at least the young ones, who can kick outside. Brian Flores might be at heart a basketball coach masquerading as a football coach.
Yeah.
Because he feels like a basketball guy. He's got the moving parts. He can go small. He can go big. But you're never going to know what he's going to do while he's trying to kick your ass.
That's right. He's switching. I like that analogy. So, all right, I know some people are asking if we're going to stay on until the Vikings' next pick at 172. It's probably still 25 minutes away, and I think they trade back. They've not like acquired additional picks yet, and this seems like a good chance to do it. Plus, we'll get someone way smarter than us. We'll get Thor on here either tomorrow or Monday to help us break down the actual X's and O's and the profiles of these guys. So we'll let you turn your attention to hockey. Judd's Hockey Show is going to be live from the X after this game is over between Wild and Vegas. You can also find that on the Score North YouTube channel. So, yeah. All right.
A great time to be a Minnesota sports fan. 2-1 lead for the Wolves, 2-1 lead here. Vikings drafting. Future looks bright.
So much fun.
I don't know what to do with myself.
It's great. Yeah, we'll be at Target Center tomorrow too. Post-game show live from the arena. So yeah, if you're just dabbling in Purple Daily, maybe you haven't discovered Judd's Hockey Show, Flagrant Howls, or the Score North Twin Show, check out our entire catalog of podcasts. ScoreNorth.com is a good central hub. He's Judd. He's the sports dad from the bowels of the XL Energy Center, or whatever they're going to name it going forward. It's been a nice 25-year run. I'm Phil, and we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.